0.1% doesn't seem much, however, what would horribly, catastrophically, go wrong if it was off by 0.1%? The strong nuclear force. The force that holds the nuclei of atoms together. If the value changed even slightly, just about everything in the universe would cease to exist as we know it. We'd all become giant gas clouds. Isaac Asimov literally wrote a book about it. A worker at my dad's metal processing plant made an error even smaller than that, I believe. It was a small metal part for machines that make plastics, so they need to be quite precise. They ran out of one metal length, so they were making the part out of a slightly longer metal to start with and just trimming more of it off for the final product. The initial trim left an excess of 100 microns, which even on a plate that is 1 inch in size is just something like 0.003% of the size. A worker failed to double-check since they were so accustomed to the normal metal size being used and cleared the metal through for the final processing. Well, it turns out that excess 0.003% made the material unusable after it was finished, and it cost the company over $13,000. If 0.1% of all airline flights crashed, there would be around 87 crashes every day. Legend has it that a rocket launched by NASA, more specifically Mariner 1, exploded during launch because of the emission of a single hyphen. That's less than 0.05%, 0.0005% of all the characters in the rocket's code. It cost $80 million to fix. Hot water knob in shower. Carbon content in steel. Steels such as 1095 steel are literally just iron with 0.95% carbon in the composition. A difference of 0.1% carbon content would dramatically change the properties of the steel in question. This is true of other chemicals in alloys, but carbon is the most well known. The amount of polonium in your body. Unexpected Russian assassin. Genetic engineering. You with 0.1% of genes and your baby has banana eyes. Humans initially all had banana eyes. That's where the phrase "keep your eyes peeled" comes from. Wow guys, 11 awards and not 1 platinum. Pathetic. Just kidding. Thank you for the kind words everyone. I'm really humbled and glad I made so many people laugh. Also, as bananas discolor and start to smell as they age, it's also the origin of the phrase brown eye and stink eye. Google banana in your brown eye to see proof. Centrifuges for nuclear material. Of course, the ELI-5 version is a virus was left on a USB in the parking lot of the Iranian nuclear program, which some poor schmuck popped into his work computer inside the high-security facility. It only changed a few small numbers to make the centrifuges operate slightly faster than is safe, to causing them to rip apart, destroying huge, important portions of some of the most expensive engineering in human history. It does basically nothing to non-nuclear material producing computers, which is good because it has unexpectedly spread all over the world and may even be on your machine. Anything NASA does. All that space shit for sure. We're aiming for the moon, ish. Proton charge plus electron charge. Rocket angled an extra 0.1% to the left, at larger distances that adds up. Disk space on Windows 10 computers with nearly full disk. Windows 10 often uses up several gigabytes of disk space to do things such as install updates, and leaves a safe buffer of just 256 megabytes. Now imagine that some Steam game releases an update, and you have 0 bytes left in seconds. And 0 bytes free means absolute disaster. It's not like you cannot put anything more on it. Absolutely nothing will save on the disk, and any attempt will generate an error. Websites won't load, because cache won't write to disk. Drivers will crash, because they tried to write some logs. When you turn off your computer, registry will get completely messed up, because it was a few bytes too large to store up. Theoretically, antivirus may fail database update, and start deleting everything, and you'll end up having to reinstall Windows. The United States Postal Service delivers 187.8 million pieces of first-class mail per year. If 0.1% of those go missing, that's 187,800 missing items. ... Did I say per year? I meant per day. Hand sanitizer. It'd go from killing 99.9% of bacteria to killing 100%. You thought you were just cleaning your hands because you got some ISSH on them at the gas station and it still smelled odd, but little do you know, you've just brought about the end of times. Your hand-sanitized hands immediately have no surviving microbial life, and the purging energies of Pural only continue to surge forth. Bacteria all across the gas station suddenly die in an ever-expanding circle of bacterial annihilation. Your gut microbiome dies, which will lead to horrible nutritional imbalances down the line. Corpses stop decomposing. Everyone sick with flu suddenly seems fine again. But fine they are not. It takes days for the purge of all bacterial life to really start to sink in. But it soon does. All plants begin to wither and sag into dead tatters. They had needed bacteria as an essential step in their respiration. Too bad now they're all dead. The dying plant biomass won't rot, as rot is no longer a thing that is possible, or, at least, not at any timescale we're used to. It'll just stack up endlessly, smothering entire ecosystems in dead waste. All animal wastes begin to accumulate and pile, with no bacterial life to recycle waste into nutrients for the environment. Grazing animals can still eat at the dead plant matter, because it isn't rotting. But it doesn't matter. Grazers probably die first. Not only are plants they eat no longer reproducing, but they can't even digest cellulose anymore without gut bacteria. They'll slowly wither away and starve to death in fields of dead grass. The food chain just had a fundamental link severed. Predator animals die next. Their prey is dead, emaciated, and largely nutritionless. And their own digestive systems are poorly functioning without those all too missed gut bacteria. Rapidly, entire ecosystems experience total catastrophic collapse. Faced with a total failure of every natural system, humans see their death approaching as sure as the setting sun on the horizon. As the last man dies, he may wonder what horrid act of God brought about the end of times, and what humanity had done to earn such a fate. He never knew the true villain was Pural, and that the first victims of this apocalypse were things he'd never stopped to value in life. Ironically enough, humans were less than 0.1% of bacteria. Mass-wise, the apocalypse had already happened the moment the gas station sanitation wave was unleashed. This was just the dust settling. Notes and errata. Many have been sure to point out that influenza is indeed not a bacterial infection. It's viral. Sorry flu sufferers. You've got to endure the apocalypse with your stuffy nose intact. Trying to follow your mom's instructions. The trajectory of a nuclear warhead. Back in the 50s and 60s, that's actually why the warheads were so big. The missiles were only so accurate, so you needed to make a bigger boom in case your missile was off by a mile or two. If 0.1% of all people's hearts stopped, 7.7 million deaths. Back. If you mean blood alcohol content, that's a really good one. 0.1% less humans. That is a lot less people. The Leftovers is a TV series about the aftermath of only 2% of the world's population going missing instantly. Super interesting premise. Data on the planet. As of December 2018, there was an estimated 33 zettabytes of data globally. If we lost 0.1% of that, we'd lose 33 quintillion bytes of data. To put that in perspective, the Library of Congress is estimated to hold 10 terabytes of data in all printed material. 1 exabyte is 100,000 times all the printed material in the Library of Congress. A 0.1% daily increase in anything would be a disaster. Imagine every day you'd have 0.1% more cats. If there are, I dunno, 100 million cats now, there would be 144 million in a year, 3.8 billion in 10 years, 150 billion in 20, a million billion cats in 100 years. We'd all be knee-deep in a sea of cats. There is something called the 1% rule of internet culture, where it says that only 1% of users on a website are actively creating content while 99% of people lurk. If that went down by 0.1%, that would be a significant loss to the content most of us enjoy on a daily basis. If my kettle was off by 0.1% of a degree, my cup of tea would be embarrassingly underbrewed. Programming. A small bug in code, like a spelling error, could theoretically bring down your application. In the 2000 U.S. presidential election between George W. Bush and Al Gore, it came down to what was basically one state in the Electoral College. Whoever took Florida would have enough Electoral College votes to put them in the White House. Until the result in Florida was known, neither side could claim victory. And Florida was close. Like, really close. After recounts and a contentious Supreme Court decision, it was determined that Bush had received 2,912,790 votes to Gore's 2,912,253. In short, the presidency was decided by just 537 votes out of 5.8 million, not a margin of 0.1%, but 0.01%. Depending on your view of the Bush administration, that may very well count as going horribly, catastrophically wrong. Alcohol level in blood while driving. Don't drink and drive, kids. Can I drink and drive if I'm not driving, kids? 99.9% of a ship's hull without holes. You'd be surprised to hear that all commercial cargo ships actually have holes in them on purpose to take in seawater for cooling, fresh water generation. And trust me, those bastards can very easily have a steady leak. Rice to water ratio. If 0.1% more women were attracted to me, that's still a lot more women worldwide, which could cause societal collapse. 0.1% of zero is still zero. I'm not too worried about it. If all of my poops left 0.1% of them inside me, I'd have a full poop left inside me roughly every 3 years. I'd be a walking septic tank by now. My dad's thermostat. A lot of surgeries. Sending someone to Mars. Guys, sorry, yeah, my math was a little off. Bonehead play by me, right? So now we're going to Jupiter. The diameter of the door on your space airlock. The concentration of CO2 in the air. All our current problems are a result of it rising from 0.02% to 0.04%. A rise of 0.1% would be beyond catastrophic. There would be no ice anywhere on Earth. The seas would rise hundreds of meters. Humans would experience various permanent, long-term health effects, and presumably so would most other animals. Jungles would cover the entire Earth, including the poles, except where mountains block the rain, and there would be unbelievably hot deserts. Get ready for Category 6, 7, 8 hurricanes. We haven't experienced a climate like this since the Jurassic. It would be bad. Pi. Mail. If the USPS lost 0.1% of their mail, that would be 18,700 lost pieces of mail every day. USPS is one of the most underrated institutions in the US. When people say the government can't do anything right, I remind myself of USPS, NASA, and the highway system. Too many people in here do not understand the difference between a percentage point and an actual percentage. Sea level. If it rose by even 0.1%, massive chunks of some countries would be missing. The fuel mixture for a rocket. Why is everyone in this thread increasing things by 0.1% daily? If the death rate increases from 1,000 to 1,001 per days, that's it. The death rate is 1,001 per days now. Why would it be increased by another 0.1% again? Placement of roller coaster brakes between the rails. If that happened, it would stop. Once. Bernie Sanders' stump speech. 50% of the wealth in this country goes to the top 0%. Chernobyl Reactor 4. The amount of people that stay dead when they die. Anesthesia. If they don't get it exactly right, they can very easily kill you. That's why anesthesiologists make so much money. They don't get paid to put you to sleep. They get paid to wake you up. A lot of the stats about how life is able to exist on this planet. Isn't it called the anthropic principle or something like that? My dog, an average 55 pounds, has about 13 million hairs on her body. Usually one of those hairs ends up in my mouth every day, which is 0.0000077% of her hairs. If 0.1% of her hairs ended up in my mouth, that's 13,000 hairs in my mouth every day. 0.1% of people not knowing who Shrek is. That's 7.7 million people, unaware of Shrek. I keep seeing things on my newsfeed about the Apophis asteroid, which has a 1/45,000th chance of hitting us, 0.00002% in 10 years. If it had a 0.10002% chance of hitting us, Elon Musk would be losing his shit right now. If your ability to correctly distinguish a fart from a shit was off 0.1% of the time, would be hard to keep a long-term job if you shit yourself every couple years, and you'd probably earn some hurtful nicknames. Failure rate of hand grenades. If our DNA would be 0.1% off, we would be dolphins. Not seeing a downside. 0.1% chance a day to get raped by a jar of mayonnaise. I see how my mayo looks at me. I think 0.1% chance is low. If movies are telling the truth. Earth re-entry. Lots of space trajectories in here, but the one that would be most catastrophic would be an asteroid incorrectly estimated to pass merely near the Earth. Alignment while docking in space. Your blood alcohol concentration while you're driving. My tax payments. Might f around and go to jail for that 0.1%.